Hey everyone, how's it going? So already over 3 years ago, if you can believe it, I decided to see if I could beat Red and Blue with the least number of battles possible. And since then, we've gone through every game in the series, well, pretty much, trying to do the same thing. The rules are simple and they're on the screen right now. Every trainer battle, win or loss, counts as a battle. Every wild battle where you don't run away immediately counts as a battle. We don't use items in battle, and we don't use glitches, and we also can't use the daycare. Essentially, it's a fun challenge to see with limited resources how we can beat these games, and it's gotten really difficult. With that said, since FireRed and LeafGreen are very similar to Red and Blue, I'm anticipating a very similar strategy. However, there are a lot of notable differences, namely the AI is way better, and we have all the Gen 3 mechanics. So I don't know if this is going to go as smoothly as Red and Blue did, but let's see. The first important choice we have to make is which starter are we going to pick. And I'm going to pick the same starter I picked in Red and Blue, Bulbasaur. The reason? Bulbasaur is both good against Brock and against Misty, and shockingly, those are the only two gym leaders I plan on using my starter. A different Pokemon will try to take us through the rest of the game. So since Bulbasaur has the type advantage against both, Bulbasaur it is, although Squirtle could probably work as well. Battle 1 occurs right away against the rival, and you do need to win this battle, so if you lose, just reset and start again. Battle 2 occurs in Viridian Forest. There's only one mandatory battle, the final Bug Catcher. After we defeat him, we will get Leech Seed, which helps us versus Brock, who happens to be the third battle in the game. We're pretty underleveled, but with Leech Seed, things are actually going to go better than you think. All we need to do versus Geodude is go for Leech Seed and Growl. It's not going to win us any speedrunning competitions, but unlike Roxanne's Geodude, Brock's Geodude does not know any rock moves. The only move it can really use is Tackle, and it also randomly goes for Defense Curl. So slowly but surely, we're going to not just drain Geodude's HP, but restore most of ours. Then we level up all the way to level 9. Unfortunately, we do not get Vine Whip yet, and Onix is a little bit more annoying this time. It does not have Bide, instead it has Bind, and it has Tackle. But the move we really don't want to see is Rock Tomb, because that will do a lot of damage. Thankfully, Brock hasn't gone for it yet, and by this point it's a little too late. We have dropped Brock's Onix's attack by a lot. Critical hits still hurt, but in the end, it's not enough to knock me out. Not even close. And our Bulbasaur can level up. We get Vine Whip. Wish we would have had that a level earlier, but that's alright. Entering Route 3, we have Battle 4 right away, this Bug Catcher, but this is where another weird change between Red and Blue and FireRed and LeafGreen. They moved the youngster one tile south from where he is in Red and Blue, and thus we can just go around him. Now we have a choice between the Bug Catcher and the last. The last has fewer Pokemon, so according to minimum battles rules, when we have a choice of two trainers, we always pick the trainer with least Pokemon, even if it's a little bit harder. So that's going to be Battle 5, and there's one more trainer on the route that's going to be Battle 6. One thing that is slightly more annoying about FireRed and LeafGreen in pretty much every game after Generation 1 is you have trainers like this Rocket known as a Spinner. As long as you don't run, you will eventually, if you reset enough, make it past him. But it is nicer when they just look in one direction, you can walk around them easily. Whatever, we pass him. There is another Rocket that is mandatory, as well as the Super Nerd. So that's going to bring our total to 8 battles, and now our 9th battle is going to be pretty difficult. It's either going to be Misty or Rival 2. And considering Rival 2's Pidgeotto has a flying move, I think we know which battle we should be doing next. However, before I do battle Misty, I should note again, the trainer in her gym, who is mandatory in Red, Blue, and Yellow, is once again not mandatory. So right now we're actually -2 battles from where we were in Red and Blue. Hopefully that doesn't make Misty too difficult. She leads with Staryu that does outspeed, but Vine Whip is going to be a 2-hit KO. Water Pulse does decent damage. This isn't Gen 1. It will use water moves here. We're at level 17. Starmie doesn't have psychic moves. It does have Swift. So we use Leech Seed. We're restoring 7 HP, and we get a really clutch critical hit. Misty does heal because of that, but with the critical hit and the heal, we're actually gaining because of Leech Seed, which is enough not just to gain back enough HP to tank an additional attack, but actually in the end allows me to knock out Starmie a couple turns early. Pretty good stuff, but that's where the good stuff is likely going to end. Now we're on Battle 10, and it's going to be Rival 2, and unlike in Red and Blue, there is a flying attack on Pidgeotto, which is super effective. So if this battle ends up being difficult, we could always retry this with Squirtle and see how that goes versus Misty, but for now, let's hope Bulbasaur, or at this point, Ivysaur, can help us out. Now, I do have a trick up my sleeve that we would never have in Red and Blue this early, Sleep Powder. And we actually outspeed Pidgeotto, which I wasn't expecting. And once Leech Seed is up, this battle has gone from insanely scary to actually insanely easy. Yes, Gust does a lot of damage, but Rival 2 will not heal Pidgeotto. However, now comes out Charmander, and we gotta put it to sleep again, because Charmander is equally as scary. We're gonna try to gain back HP via Leech Seed, but Charmander wakes up and does a lot of damage via critical hit. One more, and we're knocked out, and then I misclick with Leech Seed. I actually wanted to try Vine Whip, and so our first battle versus Rival 2 doesn't go so great, but due to the updated movesets of FireRed LeafGreen, this is definitely going to be possible, if not very difficult. So we have seeded Pidgeotto once again. Pidgeotto cooperated quite well last time. Gust this time comes out much earlier because it wakes up earlier, but we're able to put it right back to sleep and start gaining HP back. It stays asleep, we're about to knock it out, but it wakes up on like 1 HP, and that's not great. We have 30 HP for Charmander. We do put it to sleep, so far we've gotten good luck with our sleep powders, not so much with Leech Seed. Charmander wakes up, this time it doesn't get a crit, and it's probably going to take one more hit. We do put it back to sleep, and I'm going to use Vine Whip. Vine Whip is doing more damage, it seems, than Tackle. It wakes up again early and hits with Ember. We put it back to sleep. I go for Vine Whip, it stays asleep, and that should be the battle? I don't know. Abra comes out next, and I'm going to go for Leech Seed just to make certain. There is absolutely no reason to rush into Rattata, but with 30 HP and with Vine Whip, that should be enough. It goes for Quick Attack, it doesn't get a crit, which is good, and so with 11 HP to spare, so the Leech Seeds on Abra actually did help, we beat Rival 2 fairly quickly. So that's really good. Alright, the Nugget Bridge section is completely unchanged from Red and Blue. I mean, there's some slight differences, but in terms of number of battles and the Pokemon they have, it is the same. That's going to put us at 21 battles heading to Vermilion, where there is going to be another minor change from Red and Blue that's going to impact our battle count. In Red and Blue, both these trainers will see you no matter how far to the left you go, but in FireRed and LeafGreen, this first trainer you can avoid. Right now, we're actually -3 compared to the original games, which honestly is going to make things a little bit harder, but is kind of cool. Since this is a minimum battles challenge, less battles is good. But after this, the 22nd battle, we then have to battle Rival 3, who is a little bit more difficult than Rival 2, and is going to be our 23rd battle. Alright, so like Rival 2, we have a Pidgeotto leading off, but unlike in that battle, we miss Sleep Powder not once, but twice, and it uses Sand Attack. Now, you may have noticed I have a second Pokemon. I do always buy Magikarp, just so I can swap away things like lowering accuracy or confusion for Zubat. Magikarp doesn't have any moves, it's in the slow level up group, so it isn't a viable option to run the game with, but it is useful just to have a second Pokemon on hand. Anyway, I'm going to reset until we get a first turn Sleep Powder. There's just no reason not to. And we get it in our third attempt. Now, I'm not even going to bother with Leech Seed, I'm just going to go for Razor Leaf and I get back-to-back crits. Increased critical hit ratio, but still. This is where picking Ivysaur is going to be more of a problem. Kadabra comes out and immediately goes for Disable and disables Razor Leaf. Then it goes for Kinesis, and even though it didn't hit, my Sleep Powder missed. Disable runs out, but of course, it goes for Kinesis and I miss with Razor Leaf. Now I'm going to swap into Magikarp and I'm just going to let it knock it out with Confusion, which would probably do a ton to Ivysaur. It goes for Kinesis again, but this time we put it to sleep. Razor Leaf actually does more than I thought it would. This isn't Gen 1, its special defense isn't great, but Charmeleon now comes out. We do put it to sleep right away. I go for Leech Seed just to be certain, because since our accuracy is lower, missing is going to happen, and 20 damage isn't terrible, But after Smokescreen, our accuracy is going to be terrible. Thankfully, we are able to put Charmeleon back to sleep and get a super clutch critical hit. The last Pokemon is Eradicate. One hit should do the trick. It actually doesn't. It hits with Hyper Fang once, but then it itself misses with Hyper Fang. The third time it hits, I'm now missing a bunch, and it looks like we might lose, but with 17 HP to spare, probably on my last hit, we do beat Rival 3 on our first try. A stressful battle, a difficult battle, but a battle that clearly demonstrates even when 3 Pokemon have type advantage over Ivysaur, it is a really, really good option to use in this challenge. Unfortunately for Ivysaur, its usefulness is almost at an end. The main reason it is difficult to use Ivysaur or Venusaur is just that it is slow. While its early game moveset is pretty good, its late game moveset leaves a lot to be desired, and a lot of late Pokemon really give it fits. Thus far, it's looking like FireRed and LeafGreen will have fewer battles than Red and Blue, but unfortunately in Rock Tunnel, things start to take a turn. You see, and it's hard to see because it's so dark, this is what Rock Tunnel looks like in FireRed and LeafGreen, and in this game, you have to battle one of these 2 hikers in order to progress, while in Red and Blue, they're avoidable. But wait, there's more. 2 more. Once we get back to the first floor, there are another couple hikers, both of which are completely avoidable in Red and Blue, but as you can see, you have to battle at least one of them in FireRed and LeafGreen, and finally, Picnicker Sophia, who is also skippable in Red and Blue, she is mandatory in here, so by the time we get out of Rock Tunnel, we are at 32 battles. We're still -2 compared to Red and Blue, so still looking good, but not as good as we previously were. Alright, proceeding to Route 8, there is one mandatory trainer here. We get a choice of 2 different trainers, and that is the last battle in which Ivysaur will be our main Pokemon. Ideally, we never use it in battle again, although I think we might have to use it a little bit here and there, because if you remember the Red and Blue run, we're going to go to Celadon, get the coin case, and immediately purchase an Abra. It is very important that we are playing FireRed version, because although the Abra is a little more expensive, it'll be at a slightly higher level, which will make this next part far, far easier. Now, you might think I'm going to use Kadabra because it's my favorite Pokemon, but no. While I do love Kadabra, there's a Pokemon that does this far, far better. At least it did in Red and Blue, and that is Mr. Mime. The biggest reason is that Mr. Mime is a trading Pokemon, and that means it's going to gain experience points 50% faster. So even though right now it is way lower level than Ivysaur, with that 50% increase, it'll end up being a higher level than Venusaur would be by the time we get to the end game. Not to mention, Psychic has a much better time versus a lot of these gyms and trainers than a grass Pokemon. One really interesting thing about FireRed and LeafGreen is that we don't need to worry about getting a good Mr. Mime. Every Mr. Mime we would acquire via trade will be identical, so we can plan around a standardized Mr. Mime, and this will either work or it won't. Now, if you recall, we actually skipped Lieutenant Surge, so we're going to go back to battle him, but there is a mandatory trainer, Gentleman Tucker. He was not mandatory in Red and Blue, but he is now, so we're slowly losing that advantage. Now, obviously, our Mr. Mime is way lower level than Pikachu, but because it attacks randomly, we can theoretically defeat it, and this is huge. Being able to just use Mr. Mime is the most efficient way to do this challenge. The more experience Mr. Mime gets now, the more not under-leveled it will be, and the easier time it will have with the next couple sections, in which it actually should do really well. Next up is Lieutenant Surge. So, Lieutenant Surge has 3 Pokemon. We're definitely not going to be able to beat them with just Mr. Mime. You can see I did teach Psychic now, and it does a lot of damage. However, Sonic Boom plus Shockwave, not going to be able to survive that. So we're probably going to have to use Ivysaur in some capacity here, which is unfortunate but not completely unexpected. So what I'm going to do is just swap in Ivysaur and just have it knock out Voltorb, and that's just what we're going to have to do. Next, I'm going to put Pikachu to sleep in order to swap back in Mr. Mime. You'll see I acquired an Eevee. It actually uses full heal here, which is fine. We'll talk about that Eevee in a second, but it's just going to be used for Surf. We can knock out Pikachu with Razor Leaf, and we don't need Meditate. Raichu, ideally what will happen is I'm going to try to go for Leech Seed and weaken it. See, ideally, we actually have Ivysaur faint and get Mr. Mime to gain the total number of experience points, but that's not looking super duper likely right now. I'm going to swap Mr. Mime in and just swap in Ivysaur. This way I gain experience points, but yeah, it would be nice, but it just seems really difficult to get Raichu to knock out an over-leveled Ivysaur and then get Mr. Mime all the experience points. This will have to be enough. It already gained more than I expected from the Pikachu and more than I planned for. And Mr. Mime actually can learn Shockwave, although it is not as useful as Thunderbolt, which could also learn. So yeah, that's it for Lieutenant Surge. Now we're going to head back to Celadon and do the Rocket Game Corner quest. Hopefully Mr. Mime is high enough level that it can sweep through most of these Pokemon without Ivysaur's help. Unfortunately, the first Rocket Grunt leads with Eradicate, and we just simply will not be able to knock that out. So I'm going to swap back into Ivysaur. It's actually still paralyzed. I forgot to heal it, but that's okay. It goes for Hyper Fang, and I'm going to try the exact same strategies before, but Cut just deals way too much damage. And so I think I'm just going to have to knock it out with Ivysaur and just split experience points, which sucks. You'll notice I'll swap in Magikarp. This is to get the free swap in with Mr. Mime, because ideally it misses or I outspeed. I didn't outspeed, but it misses. And now I shouldn't have to split experience points with Zubat, which I one-shot with Psychic. So this is kind of the stuff we're going to have to think about going forward, using Ivysaur as little as possible and getting Mr. Mime to a respectable level. There are 3 more Rockets, and then we battle Giovanni. Giovanni will be tough for Mr. Mime to solo, even though we're at level 20. Now, we've used up a lot of power points for Psychic, but we can take out the Onix pretty easily. Kangaskhan, however, will be a little tougher, and we're going to need Ivysaur to help, which is no longer under-leveled. Leech Seed hits, and this should help us. We might even be able to do what we were trying to do before and get Kangaskhan to knock out Ivysaur and then revenge KO it with Mr. Mime. This is actually looking very, very doable. I'm going to go into Magikarp to lower its HP a little bit more. Oh, no. No! So that almost worked, but it decided not to attack the Magikarp. So we're going to have to do the battle again, which is annoying, but let's just speed through it this time. This time around, I'm going to go into Eevee because it has Quick Attack. The Eevee, I mentioned it before briefly. Unfortunately, Eevee's actually bulkier than I anticipated, so that won't work either. So we're going to have to try this a 3rd time. But like I was saying, the Eevee, the point of it is for Vaporeon. It learns Surf, and that's good. Unfortunately, this time, I actually forget to switch out Mr. Mime for Ivysaur right away, so we're going to have to do this again. Thankfully, this is probably the last battle in which Mr. Mime will need help. Rival 4 is pretty easy, and Erica has poison Pokemon, so I really do want it to get... Ooh, that was a good crit. And Leech Seed, okay, this could work, this could work. Mega Punch misses. I actually misclicked, I meant to go for Razor Leaf there. And we actually survive. This is looking pretty good. Bite, you know what? This might be perfect, just it knocked me out. No, it never does. It never does. It never does. All right, let's just fast forward to when it works. It actually took me 10 minutes, if you can believe it, to finally get a battle where Kangaskhan decided to knock out my Pokemon when it was supposed to, which is totally and utterly ridiculous. But yeah, now we're just going to speed ahead, but you can see what's, going to happen. You already kind of know. This time, Ivysaur faints really early, so we're going to actually need Eevee to take on a bit of a bigger role, but with its Quick Attack, even with Tail Whip, thankfully this time, we're going to go for Growl just in case, maybe give Mr. Mime an extra attack, but it's okay. Mr. Mime, it doesn't knock it out, and I'm thinking, oh boy, another reset, but we swap in Magikarp, it does choose to attack, and then Leech Seed will knock it out. Right now, we don't outspeed Kangaskhan for the record. Magical Leaf is pretty good. We can get rid of Confusion since we already have Psychic with 2 power point ups, so we have 14 power points, and Magical Leaf one-shots the Rhyhorn, and we're at level 23, which is really good. The next thing we're going to do, because Rival 4 is a little tougher in FireRed LeafGreen, is Erica. There aren't too many mandatory trainers in her gym. There is one additional mandatory trainer no matter which way you try to go. There is a trainer that you can't skip in this gym, no matter whether you go to the left or to the right. You have to battle one of these trainers. So we'll battle the one with less Pokemon, but that's still going to help out Ivysaur. As it turns out, in terms of total cumulative Pokemon, it is quicker to go on the left, or there are fewer Pokemon, I should say. So we're actually going to go the left route, and then we will battle Erica. Alright, so we're still under-leveled for Erica, but we should be in a better position than Giovanni. Psychic actually one-shots after outspeeding, which is exactly what you want to see. Tangela has horrific special defense, and Vileplume has great special defense, so it's going to be a 2-hit KO. It paralyzes me. It goes for Giga Drain. I'm fully paralyzed, but I'm still going to knock it out the next turn with Psychic, because you know who also has amazing special defense? That's right, it's our Mimeman, Mr. Mime. So, that's 44 battles done, and Mr. Mime is really starting to come into its own. Next comes Rival 4. He leads with Pidgeotto, and we don't have Shockwave taught yet. It really doesn't make a difference because Psychic does more anyway. We use it after it uses Quick Attack, and it thankfully doesn't go for Quick Attack again. So we gain a bunch of experience points. We're at level 27. Now Shockwave probably would be helpful versus Gyarados. It goes for Thrash and Crit, so I'm at 2 HP. It's not looking good for Mr. Mime. Execute comes out here. I have to go for Psychic, and it can knock me out with Confusion. Had Gyarados not gotten a crit, we probably would have won. But, of course, it did. This time, Pidgeotto goes for Gust in the second battle. And because of damage rolls, we have slightly less HP. But this time, Gyarados' Thrash will not crit. It's a 2-hit KO. That means as long as Execute cooperates with us, it goes for Confusion. We have 21 HP, and we're now, look at that, level 28. It's climbing. Kadabra comes out next. I go for Magical Leaf. It goes for Confusion, and we knock it out. One more Pokemon to go. It's Charmeleon. I go for Psychic. Almost knocks it out. Metal Claw's going to gain an attack boost, but too little too late. Mr. Mime had just enough HP to knock out all of Rival 4's Pokemon. Now, there's not much else to say about the Pokemon Tower. There are 7 more mandatory battles, including 3 Channelers, Ghost Marowak, and then 3 Team Rocket members. Nothing really interesting to say about any of them, so we're going to pick it up in Koga's gym. Koga's gym still has 2 mandatory trainers, both of which are jugglers, and this is battle 53. We're level 32, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle to knock out the Drowsy. Psychic does slightly more due to how damage rounding works than Magical Leaf, and although Drowsy can't do too much to us, I'm actually going to go for Substitute so it doesn't go potentially for Poison Gas. I'm even going to try to mix in some barriers here, but now I think it... Oh, you know, after that Meditate, this might be good. Trying to get behind a Substitute is a way to avoid Poison Gas. There we go. And now we knock it out behind a Substitute. I wish I had Leftovers, but unfortunately in minimum battles, it's not actually possible to get Leftovers. The reason for this is the only way you can get Leftovers is by getting the Item Finder, because for whatever reason, Leftovers are the only item that are hidden, but require the Item Finder in order to get. Very strange. But we get some clutch crits and poison gases, and we're able to get by the first juggler, and we're going to get by the second juggler, which I don't need to show you. I can show you the Koga battle, though, because that is an important major battle. But I did get slightly distracted by that interesting battle, and forgot to mention in order to get the item finder, you need to catch 30 Pokemon, and that would be a bunch of extra battles. Hence, no Leftovers in this run. In theory, Koga should be very easy, but in practice, who knows? I'm going to go for Substitute just in case I get Toxic. Unfortunately, I get hit by Sludge immediately. That's not great. Now, where I was worried about Toxic was Muck. I'm going to go for Sludge. It goes for Minimize. That's good. Well, it's good if I hit. Sludge then knocks out my Substitute, and I'm able to knock out Muck. I knew Muck was going to be a 2-hit KO. Wheezing might also be one, as we knock out Coughing number 2, and if we were behind a Substitute, we wouldn't have to worry about Self-Destruct. I go for Psychic. It is almost a 1-hit KO, and because of all those Substitutes, we actually don't have enough HP. So we may just want to be super aggressive here and not use Substitute. I'm not sure. So this time I'm just going to knock out Coughing number 1 immediately. I'm going to try the aggressive strategy. Minimize is perfect. We don't get a miss. And this probably, if we don't see Self-Destruct, means we get a victory. Does this Weezing even have Self-Destruct? I think about Red and Blue a lot, but I'm pretty sure this one does as well. Who cares? It was a range, and we got it this time. So Hooray! Okay, that was easy. Koga is defeated, so now we have the choice because we do have Vaporeon and we do have Surf. We could battle Blaine, but we should probably go into Sylph Company. Now, if you remember Red and Blue, this rocket is mandatory back then, but in this game, he actually isn't. He's a spinner, so he does move erratically in random directions, but if you save and try hard enough, you can skip him. That means there's only one actual Team Rocket member other than Giovanni himself that we're gonna battle in Sylph Company, but the hardest battle is going to be the one and only Rival Fivel. Let's hope he's not too difficult. Alright, Rival Fivel's gonna lead with Pidgeot. We have a level 36 Mr. Mime. We haven't battled anyone since Koga. Wing Attack does a lot, but we are able to knock out Pidgeot. Gyarados comes out next. Don't forget, we have Shockwave just in case. But we don't have to just use Mr. Mime. I can just swap in Ivysaur and try to use Leech Seed again. There's no rule saying I can't do that or I can't try to weaken these Pokemon. And because we have a super leveled up Ivysaur, perhaps this battle isn't going to be as difficult as I thought it would be. I go for Substitute, Bite does knock me out, but we weaken Gyarados enough that Psychic will knock it out and I level up to level 37. Unfortunately, we've used up our Ivysaur, and Charizard comes out, hits me with Scary Face. But that's okay, I've got a couple fossils, and I have Vaporeon. It goes for Flamethrower. I'm going to go for Surf, and we actually survive Wing Attack. I'm going to just go for Growl here. The rival does not heal, and Mr. Mime Revenge KO. So Vaporeon and Ivysaur have both proved pivotal in this battle. Execute's annoying, but we get a clutch critical hit. Unfortunately, hits with Stun Spore, but there's only one more Pokemon after we knock it out. Alakazam, it goes for Future Sight. Psychic is going to be, well, after that Calm Mind, it might be a 4-hit KO or a 5-hit KO. It's going to be close. Future Sight hits, we're at 32. Thankfully, it's not going for any other attacks. Maybe it doesn't have any. I'm not really sure. I got to look up its moveset, but right now, what I know is it was defeated by Mr. Mime with huge assists from Ivysaur and from Vaporeon. Even though in minimum battles you do typically want to give one Pokemon all the experience points, I can safely say that having Ivysaur has been integral, and Mr. Mime has done most things first or second try, aside from some bad luck we got or trying to get experience points. So I'm very, very happy with how the run has gone to this point, but as you know, this is the hardest section. I'm not sure why I talk about the second Giovanni battle as if this is a major battle. It's not, but it is going to give me useful experience points, and it's a good time to talk about something that I realize is about to come up, which is the fact that, guys, we only have about 10 battles left. We had 68 in Red and Blue, so assuming nothing is too different, that's it. Mr. Mime as it is now is what Mr. Mime is going to be. Unfortunately, I actually get knocked out by Kangaskhan because I didn't have enough power points for Psychic, which is my bad. If things are the same as Red and Blue, we only have 2 more non-major battles left. Anyway, I have to heal and restore power points for Psychic, so I guess I can show a successful Giovanni battle. This is a real unfortunate thing. Since Lepa Berries aren't a thing, losing power points happens a lot, and going back and forth is annoying. I am trying to do this as fast as I possibly can, especially because you do have to get by a spinner, and spinners are the things that make a lot of these runs way, way more annoying in later generations. I love when trainers just didn't move, and actually they've gone back to that in recent Pokemon, which is kind of nice. But anyway, you can see for Kangaskhan, I can actually use Ivysaur, just like we did way back when, and then we can easily knock out Rhyhorn. So having Ivysaur with Sleep Powder and Leech Seed, super great. It's kind of sad it probably will never get the amount of experience points it needs to become Venusaur, but maybe. If things are looking really easy, I might try to make it Venusaur, but I can't promise anything. Anyway, the next major battle we're going to do is Sabrina. You've already seen that we had a pretty good matchup against Alakazam because of our high special defense, so even though we don't have great offensive moves, defensively we should be set. Alright, Sabrina leads with Kadabra. We go for Substitute, it goes for Calm Mind, and that might be a bit of a problem. We do get on our second Psychic a very lucky special defense drop, but unfortunately we put Kadabra right in healing range. And once we take the Future Sight, our Substitute fails. Now, because this is minimum battles, there is no way for me to get leftovers, and Substitute's effectiveness is lessened. We're at half HP for Venomoth. This we're gonna one-shot easily. Then Sabrina's Mr. Mime comes out. I decide to go for one more substitute. It goes for Calm Mind. This is not the best thing. Psybeam isn't enough to break Substitute. The second one, though, will be enough. And it's going to be a 5 KO. And that means Mr. Mime will knock me out. So, Substitute may not be the play here. I thought maybe because they don't do much damage to me, it would be good. But I'm thinking just go for Psychic, which is what I do on my next attempt. And we almost two-shot Kadabra. This time I decided to go for Magical Leaf. I take Future Sight, I go for Psychic, and another Future Sight. That's not good. Next is going to come out Venomoth, because technically it's super effective. We knock it out, and now we might not get past Mr. Mime. We're at half HP, and this is why Calm Mind is a huge deal. Ooh, that's a big special defense drop. Unfortunately, I think, yeah, she's going to heal here. We can go for Magical Leaf to conserve some of our Psychic power points. And don't forget, we can use other Pokemon here, but are any of them going to really help me? Obviously, Magikarp can't. Ivysaur doesn't outspeed. Vaporeon can go for Quick Attack, and I could have used Surf, but I don't think that would have been too great. Actually, now we can knock out Mr. Mime with Psychic, so we have made it 2 Alakazam, but although we outspeed, we're not going to make it past the Alakazam. So Sabrina is definitely being a little bit more annoying. After many more losses, I finally came up with a strategy that proved a lot more effective. I decided to teach Toxic. Now, Toxic isn't the best move to give a Pokemon in a solo challenge, but against Psychic Pokemon, it can be fairly helpful. We're going to use it against Mr. Mime, but Alakazam, the issue is, also Sabrina does have full heals, which is very annoying. But as I was saying, the issue with Alakazam, as her Mr. Mime annoyingly uses Baton Pass, it has Synchronized. You might think behind a substitute it would fail, but it doesn't. We need a Pecha Berry, and that's what we have equipped. You can get Pecha Berries via pickup, and there also are some lying around the overworld, so that's super useful. Once we have Toxic, Sabrina doesn't have any more full heals, she doesn't have full restores, and we can just wait for it to slowly knock out both Alakazam and Mr. Mime. I'd actually won before by switching to Omanite, but I wanted Mr. Mime to get 100% of the experience points because the battles are just going to get tougher and tougher, and typically having one Pokemon gain all of the experience points is much better than splitting it up, as we learned from the Pokemon Emerald Minimum Battles Challenge. So we have beaten Sabrina, one of the most difficult battles to this point. Now we have to beat Blaine, Giovanni, and then the final 6 most difficult trainers. Alright, so we're just going to go for Psychic, and we actually one-shot Growlithe, which is good. Next comes out Blaine's most powerful Pokemon, Arcanine, and bad news on both fronts. Psychic's going to be a 3 KO, Fire Blast is going to be way more than a 2 KO. I get really, really lucky that on my third Psychic, I get a critical hit, but unfortunately Blaine has 2 Hyper Potions, and I get lucky again. That might lead to an easy victory that I otherwise shouldn't have had. But don't you worry, for those hoping for a consistent strategy, Rapidash still knows Fire Blast and beats me. So we're going to need to do something to beat Blaine. But what are we going to do? Is there a TM we can use? What about the one that Sabrina liked to use to annoy me? I don't think we're going to need Toxic, even against Psychic Pokemon. I think the best thing to do, especially against weaker Pokemon like Growlithe, is just to go for Calm Mind. Now, if leftovers were available in this game, holy mackerel, as that first Fire Blast misses, and then he switches to Takedown. The AI in this game tends to switch from physical to special moves based on what will do more damage. Unfortunately, as we could probably expect, 2 Calm Minds isn't going to be enough to one-shot Arcanine, but that's okay because Blaine is going to heal, and since we outspeed, that's going to knock it out. We're at level 43, and now we just need to knock out Rapidash in one hit with 2 Calm Minds. Right now, we kind of got a little lucky since Growlithe missed with Fire Blast. However, it's an 85 accurate move, so odds are it is going to miss one time, so I'm okay with that. I'm not sure how much it actually would have done, but that's not important. What is important is that a lot of you might not know that if you just say no to Bill here, he just goes to the Pokemon Center and you don't have to do the Sevi Island side quest. So if you were thinking we'd have to add those battles to our battle total, we don't. We can beat the game without ever having to do that, which is pretty nice. Just like in Red and Blue, there are 2 mandatory trainers in Giovanni's gym, and then we have to fight Giovanni himself. Magical Leaf one-shots Rhyhorn, Dugtrio doesn't outspeed, and we one-shot with Psychic. Nidoqueen, we do one-shot with Psychic, I wasn't exactly sure, because Mr. Mime doesn't have the best special attack. We one-shot Nidoking, and we one-shot Rhyhorn number 2, since it's not a Rhydon inexplicably in this game, with Magical Leaf. That was Battle 63, so we have Rival 6 and 5 more trainers, meaning that's right, in FireRed and LeafGreen, as far as I can tell, there are 69 mandatory battles. It is the final 6 of those that tend to be the hardest, which is why they typically take up a large chunk of the video. I am hoping since Mr. Mime levels up so fast and that we have rare candies, it won't be as difficult, and with Calm Mind, we should be able to get through everything no problem. There's only one way to find out whether that will be the case, and a very good test is Rival 6 since he has Pokemon of all different types. Let's see how it goes. Alrighty, so Rival 6 leads with Pidgeot. Our Mr. Mime actually does outlevel it, and we go for Calm Mind. It goes for Wing Attack, Psychic doesn't one-shot, and that's annoying, but the Rival doesn't heal. Rhyhorn, we have Magical Leaf, we know that's going to one-shot, especially post Calm Mind. Execute is where things are probably going to get annoying. I go for Substitute, and it goes for Stun Spore. That's good. I go for Psychic. It doesn't knock it out. It goes for another Stun Spore, and look at that face. That's the face of a man who realizes we can cheese the heck out of this fight. Because for whatever reason, the AI doesn't seem to know how to interact with Substitute, and we can just knock out everything because we have 6 Calm Minds. That is +6 in special attack with Mr. Mime. Nothing is going to come close because there are no dark Pokemon. Even if there were, I don't even think... Probably a max special defense Umbreon, which wouldn't exist anyway because these Pokemon don't have IVs, maybe could tank a Magical Leaf. But yeah, that ended up being really, really, really easy. However, the last 5 trainers might be more difficult, and Execute's going to evolve to Executor. Probably will not be able to cheese it again. But that was really nice, so I'm grateful for that while it lasted. Anyway, not going to bore you. There are no mandatory trainers, as you already could tell, in Victory Road. So let's start with the Elite Four. Alright, so Loralee leads with Dugong. But you know what, I actually want to back up a second because you might notice I have Thunderbolt. How do you get Thunderbolt? All you need is, well, I have 73,000 Pokédollars, even doing minimum battles. I don't have Amulet Coin, you can't get it. And I can't rebattle trainers. You just have enough money. Well, almost enough money. The rest of it, you have to find the nuggets in the overworld and other valuable items to sell, but it is entirely possible to have Thunderbolt. Anyway, back to the battle we were actually showing you. I don't win. I go for Substitute. This is a big mistake I keep making where I think Substitute is going to tank an attack. It never does. Probably was better off just going for 2 Calm Minds. Now, one thing I want to make clear when I talk about consistent strategies is that it's hard to just on the fly come up with a strategy that's going to work every time. You kind of have to test things out, see how they work. I mean, you can do a bunch of damage calculations beforehand, but that's boring. And frankly, a lot of the damage calculators actually don't work well for the single player game because of badge boosts, which still exist, funny enough, in this game. Anyway, after literally just one battle of testing, I decided to go for, and this might shock you, a second Calm Mind, but Dugong goes for Safeguard, so I can go for a third Calm Mind, which is really lucky. It then goes for Hail, so I could have gone for a 4th Calm Mind, but 3 should be enough. The trick is to knock out Lapras in one hit. We don't. So that's my bad. Should have gone for that 4th Calm Mind. It's not the end of the world, though. Well, it might be a problem because of Jinx, but that just means we need to go for 4 Calm Minds. The thing is, though, Dugong does so little and it likes to use status moves that you're usually okay. I doubt we're going to knock out Jinx before it knocks me out because it has Double Slap, but we'll see. No, we actually get a Parahax here, and had I used one more Calm Mind, we would have won. So I have absolutely no problem just taking the victory and knowing 4 Calm Minds going forward. Alright, against Bruno, I just go for Psychic, and it actually doesn't knock out Onix in one hit, which is annoying, because that means I'm hit by Rock Tomb, meaning my speed has fallen, which is not going to be great, because now Hitmonchan outspeeds me, and it is still not a one-shot. So there is another reset, and in this challenge especially, it is imperative you do not save between Elite Four members. I mean, you can, but if you do, and then you have to go back for, let's say I needed Shadow Ball for some reason, well, you're stuck. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to beat these guys in a row, because the worst possible feeling in one of these runs, and it's happened to me a few times, is knowing that the run could have gone on if you just didn't make that one mistake. And it happens, so frustrating all that time. To be fair, this run has only been about 3 hours. But still, you don't want to waste 3 hours on a failed run that would have succeeded if you just had a little bit more foresight. Anyway, with 4 Calm Minds, it is, well, Jinx is still a problem. I might have to go for 6 Calm Minds in the future, but not a difficult battle. Okay, Bruno, we want to go for Substitute. That is going to stop the Rock Tomb. Yeah, it doesn't do enough. Now, since we're behind the Substitute, Rock Tomb doesn't lower our speed. In fact, we can even go for another Calm Mind. And now we're just going to sweep through the entire team. No problem. Okay, next comes out Agatha. Well, Agatha is very annoying in Red and Blue. She's arguably more difficult here because her Pokemon have actual movesets and ghost moves, which are not good for me. Psychic does one-shot Gengar, though, because its special defense isn't as high as its special attack, which is how its special is calculated in Gen 1. We one-shot Golbat, we one-shot Arbok, and against Gengar number 2, it goes for Hypnosis and misses. So the scary thing, we do one-shot, that's great. But the scary thing is that we didn't outspeed it, and it almost pulled, well, an Agatha and put us to sleep. We can, however, go for Chesto Berry, and that would just alleviate all our problems. Now, I'm going to use all the rare candies I have left right now. Lance is definitely going to be very difficult. You see, I have a Chesto Berry, and I'm going to use Cherry Berry just in case I don't want to get paralyzed here. Dragonite is definitely a lot more scary. The fact we don't have an ice move is pretty scary. I'm not sure if we're going to win, but as I've said like 100,000 times at this point, there's only one way to find out. Alright, so Lance leads with Gyarados. Because we have Thunderbolt, I think we should be fine here. We are. I was scared somehow that wouldn't one-shot, but that's really good. Aerodactyl, it outspeeds us. And we don't one-shot, so that is the worst of both worlds. So what I can do here is try to go for Substitute. I should have gone for Calm Mind. I'm not sure what I was thinking there. Okay, that Hyper Beam miss is going to keep us in the game, but obviously our strategy needs to change. Dragonite is going to be a 3-hit KO. Oh, God. Okay, so Lance is going to be a fairly big problem. I think we can safely say we have the first 3 members of the Elite Four figured out. Just Chesto Berry for Agatha and 6 Calm Minds against Jinx. But without an ice move and Lance choosing to use his Dragonair last, we're going to have to figure a way either to set up Calm Mind safely, or maybe there's a move I'm not thinking of. Well, I decided to use my rare candies both at a different time, and I got more of them that I forgot about in the overworld. So that was pretty nice. We're at level 65 now, and because of that, we actually outspeed Aerodactyl. We paralyze it and it goes for Scary Face, but this isn't a solo run. We can just swap out into anything, and this is something, you know what, I sometimes get some tunnel vision here. We could theoretically have used Perish Song. Whoops, that's not going to work. That doesn't mean we have to start all over. I'm actually fairly convinced we can beat Lance now. So I did save after Agatha. That does mean if we lose here, or if we lose consistently, I'll have to start over. But I'm fairly confident I've figured something out. Anyway, let's try this again. Now that we outspeed Aerodactyl, things are quite a bit easier. I go for Calm Mind, it goes for Scary Face. I'm just going to go for Thunderbolt because knocking out Aerodactyl is more important. Now out comes Dragonite. It misses with Hyper Beam. I go for Psychic. It misses with Hyper Beam again. I knock it out with Psychic. Okay, that's not at all something that's consistent. But anyway, we knock out Dragonair 1 and 2. And do I want to reset here? I mean, we're so close to the end. You know, I love these consistent strategies, but no one's really going to do a FireRed LeafGreen minimum battle speedrun. Originally, that's how I designed these challenges. If someone wanted to speedrun these, they could. But as these have gone on, they've become more theoretical challenges. On that note, I decided to keep the battle and go to battle the champion. Okay, so against the champion, I go for Calm Mind, and of course, this Pidgeot's really annoying. It likes to troll you with Sand Attack, and I get hit with it. So that means I gotta swap. But theoretically, I could go behind Substitute and then block the Sand Attacks. Of course, I do that. It goes for Aerial Ace. And then, of course, it goes for Sand Attack on the Calm Mind. So, yeah, this is going to be really annoying. And there's not much I can do. It seems like just a bit of an RNG fest. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go for Substitute. I know it hasn't worked before, but hey, look at that. Sand Attack doesn't work. Aerial Ace knocks it out. That's okay. Thunderbolt knocks the Pidgeot out. 1 down. Next comes out Gyarados. That is a bad decision. And we're going to knock it out quickly. Are we going to get to level 67? We do. Very good. Okay, next comes out Charizard. We're going to go for Thunderbolt. And oh, so close. Slash, however, doesn't do all that much. And on the full restore, we can use a second Calm Mind, which is super useful. Thunderbolt knocks it out. That is 3 down. Alakazam, I'm going to go for Substitute. See what it does here. Psychic, it doesn't knock out Substitute, meaning we can use some more Calm Minds. That was a crit, so it does knock out Substitute, but now Thunderbolt knocks out Alakazam, and I'm pretty sure that's game. Psychic with all those Calm Minds will knock out Rhydon. Ooh, Executor is a bit of a problem. We don't quite knock it out, and Egg Bomb knocks me out. Ah, so close. I mean, I do have other Pokemon here. The rival full restores. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We just won. Oh, wait, no! No! I was going to use Perish Song Lapras. It was over. Stupid game. I was so proud of how that was about to work. Oh, that would have been such a cool and fitting end. But we're just going to have to do it again. Alrighty. The final battle, probably. We're going to go for Substitute. It's going to go for Aerial Ace. Am I going to reset? We'll try. Another Substitute, another Aerial Ace. All right, let's reset. We want Sand Attack, so we're behind a Substitute. And we get Aerial Ace. Once again, another Substitute, another Aerial Ace. Alrighty, this is exciting stuff. All right, Substitute, Sand Attack, let's go. All right, Calm Mind, Aerial Ace. I think we need to knock this thing out. You know, let's be a little risky. No, this was my fault. All right, well, we can go for Thunderbolt on Pidgeot. We have 2 Calm Minds, but if we miss, we're done. We don't miss against Gyarados. I really did want Aerial Ace. We're at level 67. Okay, Charizard, don't miss. Hey, look at that. We're so far so good. So far so good. Alakazam, I'm going to go for Substitute. It goes for Psychic. Wow. Ah, it's a crit. Of course it's a crit. Okay. Because I couldn't understand how 1 knocked it out. Look, even 2 doesn't knock it out. Actually, even 3 doesn't knock it out. You know what? We're going to be able to take out Mr. Mime with a single Psychic, assuming we don't miss. We don't with Thunderbolt. Please don't miss here, because we lose if we do. Ugh. Great. Great. How much greatness is this? Okay, this should have been over, like, if it just didn't wake up, we would have won with Lapras. I'm still very salty about that. Substitute. Sand Attack. Calm Mind. Sand Attack. Another Calm Mind. Aerial Ace. Do not use another Calm Mind. Great. Thunderbolt. 1 down. Thunderbolt. 2 down. Next. How about another Thunderbolt? 3 down. Substitute. No crit, please. Yay. Calm Mind number 3. It still doesn't knock out the substitute. So Calm Mind number 4. It still doesn't knock down the substitute. Calm Mind 5. Very good. I'm going to use another substitute. It goes for Reflect. That's 6. GG. Thunderbolts. We knock out Alakazam. Psychic. We knock out Rhydon. Psychic. We knock out Executor. And behind a substitute at level 68 with 69 battles in only 3 hours and 22 minutes. Well, once we get to the credits, it'll be about 3 hours, 23 minutes. We have defeated Pokemon FireRed in minimum battles. With that, unless you want to see a pretty standard playthrough of Colosseum or XD Gale of Darkness, because I'm pretty sure minimum battles is how most people play that game, that is it for Generation 3. Starting in Generation 4 and beyond, these challenges get extremely difficult. The number of gift Pokemon and in-game trade Pokemon decrease dramatically, and it becomes a much harder task to defeat these in minimal battles. Anyway, I have so many more videos to make for December, so I'm going to go back to doing that. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.